have an inner child. I was trying to think this morning when I was first introduced to that concept, and I believe it was in about the time I went to treatment in '85. There's a lot happening in the field in the early '80s, a lot of changes, and that's the first time I heard the word codependency. And then Claudia Blight came out with a book on It'll Never Happen to Me with about adult children of alcoholics. And so, in fact, I brought her to Abilene, and in fact, she became our clinical director for several months. We had to do it by phone. But anyway, it started with me about getting information about being an adult child of an alcoholic. And then, we started hearing about the inner child and the inner child work. Actually, when I went to do some of the first training to learn how to do some of the therapeutic interventions that we do here, I was introduced to the inner child, and actually, they actually wanted me to get in touch with my own inner child. And it was hard for me. It was very hard because I had gone to great lengths to leave that kid behind, and I was not for inner child work. I hated that kid. I wanted to be an adult so bad because as a child, I had to be an adult. And and have to do adult things. And I didn't have the, a child didn't have the brain capacity to, and they just don't know how to be an adult and do adult things. Like I was having, do things like cook and take care of my mother and this and that and something else. But anyway, so my first introduction to the inner child, I remember sitting in a group in Austin. We were at that time going down to Austin for a whole week for addiction training. They had it down there every summer, and I hate that they don't do that anymore. But anyway, it was a whole week of every kind of workshop, and that was the first inner child workshop that I ever sat in, and I couldn't sit there. I started choking down, and I had to run out of the group. And then later on that day, they just kept on about this inner child. And so they were going to teach us how to play, and as a way to get in touch with our inner child. Well, I had never played as a child. I did not know how to play. I was very much a grown up. I held my body very stiff. I couldn't move. I had no movement. I couldn't dance. I could on the inside, but not on the outside. So I remember, and this was in late July before I went to treatment in September. And I didn't know then that I was getting ready to pack up and go to treatment in LA. But I remember being in that circle of people, and they were teaching us how to do inner child work, to introduce it, and to and once again, I choked up. I couldn't stay in there, and I ran out. And it was on the UT campus, and I remember running and running and running. So I'm just sharing that was my first introduction to inner child work. And we all have an inner child. And when we can begin to access the inner child, the child holds the memories. The child knows. The child really knows. And a lot of times, and that inner child is us. It's the younger part of us. And like many people, like myself, disown that part. We want to move past that. And then there's others who become their inner child. They don't have to look for an inner child. They are the inner child. They will not grow themselves up. So each one kind of has a different approach to the inner child. But what it is, like I said, the inner child, when we can start having access to the inner child, also is that part of ourselves begins to trust the adult in us. There will be more information revealed as we go along. And so if you've had any sort of woundedness at all in your childhood, the inner child is holding the pain of it in the sadness. And so the process of recovery is reparenting the inner child, becoming your, and I just hated that when I first heard it. It is about parenting ourselves in a healthier way. And, we do that by self-care. It's about learning to take care of ourselves in ways that we wasn't taken care of. So I want to talk about there's different facets of the inner child, and the inner child is that little you, that innocent, perfectly imperfect little child that lives on the inside of you. Now, and that's the one that has all the feelings and all of the primal, just really, it's real deep. But anyway, it's that primal feeling that's on the inside, and it's those primal needs. A child's birthright is to be given appropriate time, attention, direction, and and love. I mean, and positive regard. That's what parenting is to give children appropriate time, attention, directions, and unconditional love. That is what a parent's job is. So if you miss some of that and you lived in some form of dysfunction, what happens with that little inner child, like I said, there's different phases of the inner child, but that little part of us is very vulnerable, very innocent. And that part is the very deep, feeling sensitive side, that little inner you, that little innocent you, is that, and the child, if you watch children, children are curious and they're creative and they're playful. This is the natural part of a child. They're just playful and they are creative and they're curious. And guess what? They crave love. They crave love and they crave recognition. This is what children need. Absolutely. Love and recognition and validation. They need to be validated that it's okay to be on the face of the earth. And children, that little precious inner child deserves safety. And if, some of us wasn't kept safe in our childhood. And, I've heard, a lot about my childhood. My dad was, he taught us to live in fear. And he taught us to fear everything outside that house, that everybody was out to get us. Well, in my adult life, what I come to realize after I did a lot of inner child work and never other kind of therapy work is the danger was inside the house, not outside the house, and so a child deserves safety. And that is every child's birthright, is to be kept safe. And little kids are open-minded. I mean, they have no filter. They're open-minded and they'll take in, not only the good stuff but the bad stuff. They have no filter, and they have total expression of feelings. They have this is that precious part, that little you, that little bitty one. And this is usually in that early ages before there's been a lot of damage. Now, the inner child, that little you that is very precious, perfectly imperfect child of God, there's also an outer child. That's the outer one that actually takes care of the inner child. And that outer child is responsible for the self-defeating behavior. I call every one of us, yes, we have a precious child within, but we also have a brat. There's a little brat inside of all of us that stomps its foot and says, I'm not going to do that. It stomps its foot and says, I'm not going to take that recommendation. It stomps its foot and says, I'm not going to stay on that food plan. It stomps its foot and says, it's okay for me to drink. That is that little brat in us that can turn into an addict. And that little brat, that outer one, is loses control. They can loses control over their behavior and their reaction. They become reactors. When you haven't done the healing of the little child within, then a lot of times we become, and I did, a bully. I became, in a lot of ways, because I was so angry. And so that's the next thing, is this uncontrollable anger. That outer child will have a lot of uncontrolled anger. And they have impulsive and impatient behavior. My dad used to say that you're the most impatient child I've ever seen. I would like to tell you I'm completely over that, and I am much better. I am much better than I've ever been. But I'll give you an illustration. I've been up since about 5 this morning, and I get up early every morning, and I have 2 refrigerators, and we'd cooked a big meal the other day, and I had some leftovers in my refrigerator. I needed to clean out one of the refrigerators. I really didn't have time to do that this morning, but I wanted to do it. I was impatient, and I thought, now, Tennie, just wait and do it in the morning, because you'll have all morning. I would not listen to myself. No, because that little Brady part of me, I wanted it done right then. So I did it, and I actually had time to do it. But that's that impatient part of me that, kind of, I want what I want when I want it. I don't know that any of y'all have any of that, but that is that outward child. And I have to work with that part of myself, because I stayed that little poor, pitiful inner child for so long. And so when I found the outer child, I've had to learn how to parent her in a healthier way, and know that I'm not going to always get my way about things. And so that outer child will fight change at all costs. It's, we're in the business of helping people change. And they come here and, to Shades of Hope, and their intention is to change, or they wouldn't walk in the front door. They want to change. And they, a lot of times, will come here and, just so willing, for the first 2 or 3 days. And then that, outer child, that little rebellion one will, start fighting change. And we want that to happen, because if that part, that's the one that is carrying the energy, really, is that outer child. And that's the one that's going to help you have the energy to recover. That outer child, particularly if you've had any kind of severe childhood abuse, and, like sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental, emotional, religious abuse, intellectual abuse, if you've had some pretty serious abuse, that outer child is the one that has really helped keep you alive. And that outer part of us is the one that will that really overprotects the inner child. And that's when that happens, that outer child will protect that inside of us. And folks, it's the same child, it's just different facets of ourselves. And what happens is that outer child will fight change. Maybe the little part of us really wants change, but we have fear of change. We don't know what will happen. Will we be the same person if we change? Will we just change too much? And so it's that outward kid, that brat, that we really have to deal with. And because that is the one that is self-centered and is focused on their own needs. And what happens then is they overprotect that inner child, that precious one. And they overprotect, and when they do that, we push love away. We push people out of our lives that could really love us. When you have, because that outward is the one that is protecting the inner child. Now, keep in mind, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's that precious inner child, and then it is that defiant, rebellious part of us. And then there is the wounded child. There's three facets of the inner child. And here's this little wounded, very wounded, and particularly if you've had some form, like I said earlier, some form of pretty severe childhood abuse, that wounded child has such a fear of abandonment. And they have such a fear of love because they have a real fear of taking a chance on love because they have a fear of being abandoned. And so they keep people at arm's length. And then they have that deep seated belief that you're going to let them down, that other people will let them down because that wounded child has been let down so much. And so trust is a big part of this wounded child. And in working with your own inner child, it is about the adult in you. The adult in you is going to have to get on board and parent or reparent your child in a way that you wouldn't parent it. And it's a hell of a deal to be 70 years old or 50 or 40 or whatever age and have to parent your inner child. But the deal is, it is so wonderful in the process if you're willing to put the time into it. And so this little wounded child suffers from very low self-esteem. Sounds like we're talking about codependency here. This is the root of codependency. They have very low self-esteem. They have no boundaries. They do not know how to set a boundary. And they have a fear of saying no. And then they have a fear of saying yes. They're just stuck, that wounded part of us. And that wounded part of us seeks immediate gratification. This is the one that's going to get you drunk. This is the one that's going to get you into the food and over that toilet bowl. This is the one that's going to get you into sex addiction. This is the one that's going to help you starve yourself to death. This is the one that is going to reach out to some sort of a substance or codependency or love addiction to make ourselves feel better because that wounded part hurts so bad. So it sounds like, and also this seeks instant gratification, food shopping and all of the other addictions that I just mentioned. And also this part of ourselves, this wounded child, suffers from procrastination. Procrastination is what we call around here, it's sneaky fear, procrastination. That's one definition. And another definition for procrastination is hidden anger. It can be hidden anger, but another, procrastination is a lot about hidden fear, because when you don't know for sure how to do something, you put off doing it. And that's what adult children of alcoholics do. A lot of times, adult children of alcoholics have to make up what to do because we weren't taught in childhood. And so you're never really sure. And it's not just children who are raised in alcoholic homes. Any dysfunction will do, to produce this three phases of this inner child. And so that procrastination is a big deal. Well, I'm going to start meetings next week. I'm going to treatment if I don't get better. I'm going to go see a therapist. I'm going to go on a meal plan. We put off getting better for fear that we don't know how to do it or that we won't succeed in doing it. That's what the inner child does. That's the part that will tell you those things about yourself. And it'll also tell you that you don't matter. That inner child has not felt like that it's ever mattered to anyone, and particularly if there's a lot of abuse. And so that voice inside of us has to be addressed, because it will tell us in our adult life, well, you don't matter. No one loves you. No one is believes in what you're doing. The inner child tells us a lot of negative things about ourselves. So, how do we connect with that inner child? Like I said earlier, I didn't want any part of that kid. I didn't want to deal, or didn't, because I had gone to great lengths to grow myself up and to get past that childhood. But guess what? That inner child was stuck. If the child is not received the appropriate, like I said earlier, appropriate time, attention, direction, and love, unconditional love in their childhood, if they haven't gotten that in their childhood, guess what? They can't give it to themselves in their adult life. So, some of the things that we can do to get in touch with the inner child is, one of the things is, see, if you've had any kind of abuse at all, one of the things that we want to do when we are avoiding the inner child is to not be in touch with our bodies, particularly your eating disorder people. Well, really, any addiction will do. But a lot of eating disorder people live from the neck up and want to disown from the neck down. And so one of the things that can help is to daily take a few minutes and scan your body from the top of your head all the way down, and get a sense of where you are in your body. Because see, we want to disown the body. We play like it's not there, particularly eating disorder people, but most adult children of alcoholics do. The first, right after we had Claudia Black here in the 80s, myself and 2 or 3 other people, we started an ACOA meeting for adult children of alcoholics. And I had been in many 12-step meetings, many. But when I walked in there and we started reading that literature, I felt like I was home for the first time. And what it was really about is how, if we've had any form of abandonment in our childhood, we abandon that inner child ourselves. We abandon ourselves, we abandon our bodies. And so one of the techniques is to get physically in tune with your body. And one of the ways to do that is to get massages now, and I know it's probably hard now with the pandemic and all of that, or give yourself massage. Now, it doesn't work as good, giving it to yourself as it does to go and get a massage, but to do body work, particularly if you're had any form of sexual abuse or physical abuse, well, really any type of abuse, the body knows, and the body holds it. And that's why massages will help. And if you've had some really deep type of sexual abuse, Rolfing is really good. Now, if you go to a Rolfer, what they do, they get into the tissues. And what we say is our issues are in the tissues. And if you go to a Rolfer, and they're going to get in there, really into the body. And so one of the things, I know it was recommended when I was doing work around the sexual abuse, it was recommended by a therapist that I go see a Rolfer. Well, I know how to take pain. And he said, now, you let me know if the pain level, and he gave me, 1 to 10 about the pain level. Well, I'm tough. And I thought, well, if a little will be it do good, a whole lot will do better. And I never said stop. Well, it nearly killed me. I couldn't hardly walk for days. That's another symptom of an adult child of an alcoholic, all or nothing. And then that inner child, I don't know, it was hard for me to say, stop, you're hurting me, you know. So scan your body, you get in touch with your body. The inner child has held so much of the pain and the anger and the fear. That part of ourselves is so tired. They are waiting for the adult to suit up and show up and help them along a little bit here, you know. So the body is really good. Another thing is, and this is simple stuff, and everyone that I'm seeing on here, most of y'all have done this, but one of the things is to take some time, just get out in the yard or in your house where you're by yourself and close your eyes and visualize that little kid inside of you. Really visualize that little kid inside of you. And, you know, put the child on the playground or put the child in the home and really get in touch and get an idea of how old that child is. And really get in touch with that part and visualize. And you will absolutely, if you do that long enough, you will get an image of that little inner child. Now, like I said, it was hard for me to do this kind of work because I was always so morbidly obese and always, you know, with the sexual abuse and all, I always felt so dirty and all. And it was hard for me to do this work because I had spent all of my life trying to abandon that part of myself. And so this work has to be very tender. You've got to be healthy enough in your recovery to be willing to do this because it is really, it's, I want to say life or death. I mean, you keep breathing in and out, you might live to be 90 years old breathing in and out, but to really live in the present, you're going to have to get in touch with all facets of that little inner child. And you begin to embrace that part of yourself. She or he has waited on you for a long time. They're saying, well, what about me? What about me? What about me? So another thing, artwork is very good. Artwork is so good to get in touch with inner child. And, you know, put on some music, and I would even go as far as saying, get some children's music on. I've had a lullaby song that I've played for years, and, you know, get you just a simple lullaby, or just any kind of children's music, play it and draw and draw and draw and draw and draw your inner child, you know, and paint or crayons, you know, reintroduce yourselves to your box of crayons. You know, that box of crayons that you had in the first few years of your school life, you know, and I remember being, you know, in the first grade and so proud of those school supplies. Finally, I had my own school supplies. Reintroduce yourselves to a box of crayons. Buy your own crayons. Buy every color that you want to buy. I mean, that big box, buy them, and paper, and then use all the different colors. And if you think that this is silly, that is your adults telling you that. The little child needs to play. The child needs to be silly. And so, and I'm telling you folks, this was not easy work for me. I could do anything serious. I did not know how to play. And when I went to treatment in LA, and I can just still think about it, out on the courtyard, they had a ping pong table and ping pong. And every week, my assignment was to do some kind of play, particularly ping pong, and then ask someone to play with me. And that was hard because it's, bless my heart, as a little fat girl at school, you're all, I don't know about other people, they usually pick the fat ones last. And then the one that picks you don't really want you anyway, because I don't think you'll contribute to whatever game you're playing. So that was a hard assignment for me, to play ping pong, because what I wanted to do, and I did, it was right after, I'm remembering now, because I'm ashamed to say this, but Claudia Black's book had come out just before I went to treatment. That was it, just before I went to treatment. And so I got out there and got to playing ping pong, and there'd be other people. It was in a psych ward. They were all psychiatric patients, except 2 or 3 of us were eating disorder people. Well, I got to see that they were all adult children of alcoholics. I am embarrassed to say this, that I got my counselor's hat on. And when I could call my husband, I had him to send me a box of Claudia Black's books. And I was passing them out to all of the clients. And, just because I knew they needed what was in Claudia Black's book. Judy Hollis was out of town doing a book tour with her book, and she came back into town, and she told me, she talked very ugly to me. She made me go retrieve all of those books that I had given away. And she said, "You are not a counselor here. You are not." But see, that's all I knew. That's all I knew, was how to be somebody's mother, somebody's counselor, somebody's somebody, And so these are old habits die hard. And so playing, it was always hard for me. But I will tell you, the other day, my kids and I were talking, my kids, they're all in their 50s, and we had an early snow here several weeks ago. And periodically through my kids growing up, I would lose 100 pounds or 120. And so when I would get thin enough, then I would play with them, and I had forgotten all of that. And they said, "Mom, don't you remember when it snowed and you were thin then?" And we didn't have sleds or anything, because this is West Texas, and how we took the lawnmower, riding the lawnmower down. Anyway, we had fun. And I really let my inner child out. And I remember those times. But then I would gain the weight back. And when I'd gain the weight back, I would go back being the old woman again. So weight had played a big part in my not being able to get in touch with an inner child. All right, another thing you can do is write a letter to your inner child by your non-dominant hand. With your non-dominant hand, write a letter. And what I would encourage you to do is to do that more than once. Start a dialogue with that child with your non-dominant hand, and then answer the child with your adult hand. Non-dominant, the child, your dominant, answer with, you let the adult answer. And you'll find out how mad the inner child is at you, probably. And then learn to practice boundaries, 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 boundaries. That is one of the things about doing inner child work, is learning to set a boundary to protect that part of yourself. And I don't know if other people with food, if they have ever done this. I don't know. I will just say, until I got to treatment, I don't ever remember being cooked every day. Some meals cooked for me every day and served to me. Mother didn't. I was the cook, and that was very hard for me to receive that care. That because I wasn't in the kitchen cooking it, to really let someone serve me and not have to do anything and earn that. Of course, I was paying for it, but nevertheless, it was still hard for me to receive that. And so it's very important that you feed yourself appropriately, drink lots of water, just take simple care of yourself like you would a child. And then affirmations. One of the things And if any of you want a copy, or I will say you can probably, you can find anything online. You can probably Google this. But Erickson, he was worked in the field many, many years ago, and he only had a bachelor's degree, but he went and taught people that had PhDs. He taught psychiatrists and universities and in hospitals, because what his work was on the inner child, on children. And what he gave us was a list. And I know you can't see it, but if you want a copy of it, if you let Cal know, we can send you a copy of it. But I got this, I don't know how many years ago, because my kids were still at home when I got the first copy of it. And what Erickson did was he broke down what a child needed to hear, like from birth to a year, what the affirmations that they needed to hear, because that's when the trust is first built, that first year. And then from ages 1 to 3 years, a child begins to have some autonomy. They began to kind of separate a little bit, while still right there with parents. And then 4 to 5 is initiative. That's when they begin to have the insight and getting some insight into the world and how to be creative and proud of the things that they do. So I'm not going to go through each one of this, but each phase of your development, childhood development, has a set of affirmations that will address that you can say to yourself. For instance, if the bulk of your abuse happened, say 3 years of age, say those affirmations to yourself every day. When I first got this, my kids were still at home. And some of them were in the early stages of being teenagers, early stages of the eye rolling, on Here Comes Mother with something else. But anyway, I explained this to them and I put it on the refrigerator, and we had a great time with this. The kids would look at it, and one of them would say, okay, I need to hear these affirmations today because I want to be 3 years old. And we made a game out of it, And so each one of us, including my husband, he would play this with us. We did this for months. And I had forgotten it until I ran across it while I was putting this together. And this is in much of our literature at Shades, that those that have been here, you get a list of these affirmations. But we need to hear those. These are affirmations that a child needed to hear. If you didn't hear them, guess what? It's never too late. It's too late to have a happy childhood if you didn't have one, but you can have a wonderful adult life and give these affirmations to yourself. So if you want a copy, we will let us know and we'll send you a copy of that. Affirmations work. We're really big on writing 50 affirmations, very short affirmations. We really got this from Louise Hayes. Louise Hayes has preached and taught affirmations, and I'll tell you now, psychiatrists are getting where they really believe in affirmations because it changes the brain. So we recommend you write 50 very simple affirmations, and look in the dark part of your eye and read those affirmations to yourself 5 times a day. 50 affirmations 5 times a day for 2 weeks and see what happens. 5 times a day, 50 affirmations. Because what will happen is that your brain's going to pick up those affirmations, and they're going to begin to become a living part of your brain and body. I've given that assignment to everybody that's walked through Shades of Hope. And some people have actually done it, and they come back and report them. And it's amazing. But other people won't do them. It's a simple thing, doesn't cost you anything and very little time. But it's important to look in the mirror in the dark part of your eye, and it'll go right into that brain. Okay, affirmations. And then take care of yourself as if you were your own parent. If you have children, how do you take care of your own children? Take care of yourself. Like I said, feed yourself appropriate. and and be willing to uh, feel your feelings and be able to get someone to listen to your feelings and listen to yourself. And then one of the things is, if you do all of these things and you still need help, get a therapist. Get a therapist to help you. And then, I'd highly recommend any of you coming to the intensive here. And one of the things that we have, I told you last week about, I'm going to show you her one more time. Get yourself a doll. Now, in the early days of inner child work, everyone was getting a teddy bear. Now, if a teddy bear works for you, get you a teddy bear. But I like dolls, and I took great pains in finding her. And she's very old now, but I wanted someone with long hair, with dark curls, because when I was a little girl, I could see a few pictures that Mother had of me with these long curls. And then all of a sudden, I saw this. This is show and tell today. But anyway, all of a sudden, I saw this picture. I went from those long curls to a Buster Brown hairdo. Yeah, real short. And every couple of weeks, my mother would take me to a barbershop and have my hair cut like this. So when I was doing inner child work, I went and asked Mother why she kept my hair cut so short. This was before really that I got into working, doing a lot of the work around this, the sexual abuse. But what she said was that she had to cut it off short because I pulled my hair out, and I'd pull it out in clumps, big clumps. Now, what that tells me, and I wish it had got me help, that is a big symptom of abuse from a child, for a child. So that's my story in about having short hair, is because I pulled my hair out when I was a kid. But get a picture of your inner child. Put it on your refrigerator, put it in your bedroom where you can see that child, that innocent, perfectly imperfect child of God. And then another thing is start journaling about forgiveness and acceptance. Journal and about forgiveness and acceptance. If you have anything to forgive that child for, because the child has done, the child part in you has done, that's the one that has got you where you are today. That child part, because that's the part that holds the pain, that's the part that holds the anger. The child knows. And like we say, the issues live in the tissues. And as you start doing this work, if you have some unresolved conflicts of the past, those feelings will begin to come up, and honor them. And that's when you need to do these things right, but right about forgiveness of that inner child. And forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's about being willing to give up the hurt, being willing to give up the hurt and the pain. And I don't know that we can really even forgive ourselves or forgive our parents for whatever they did. But I know that God can, if we're willing to let God forgive us. And then we, but it's a process. And then I encourage you to write about acceptance, accepting that part of yourself, that perfectly imperfect child of God. Now, one thing too, and I'm running out of time here, I want to give you all a few minutes, but another thing that if you're just starting on doing inner child work, if you have children, get out and play with them and watch them. If you have grandchildren, oh, that's a wonderful thing. Go play with your grandchildren. They will teach you how to take care of your inner child. If you don't have young children, borrow somebody's. I mean, I'm sure there's people around that would love, Misty saying you could have hers any afternoon or any weekend. But get out and play with children and watch them. Because that part, if if you have had any kind of abuse, there's a part inside that gets frozen, and because the child didn't have a voice, and so a lot of times, like I said, my whole body was frozen. So get out and swing and play, go to playgrounds. But it would be good if you had children that you could take and really watch those kids, because they're just have freedom. I mean, they laugh. And so that's what I have today on the inner child and how to get in touch with the inner child. I'm sure some of you have done this work and are in the process, in the journey. So tell us, I'm going to show you one more thing before. When clients come through Shades, we believe in inner child work so much that we have them to make an inner child doll. And we've got a client that was willing to let me show her. She said that she's going to get to be on a videotape. Her little inner child is. So this is a little girl, and I'm going to show you this one. Yeah, I mean, even the guys make inner child dolls. Sometimes they think, it's too flippant, but I want you to look here, how precious this he is. And then we have him to carry him around. Now, sometimes they'll start out carrying him by the arm and swinging him around. Sally knows about that. But anyway, we have to carry him around and to embrace that inner child. And you have to get past yourself, your adult self, to really enjoy this little, making the doll and then embracing the inner child. But I'll tell you, this is one of the cutest ones I think I've ever seen over there. But he's got on mopskins, he's got on short pants and a sweater. I mean, he's just the cutest thing in the world. So if you don't want to buy you a doll, make you one in your own image, how you look. And then, we've also, and this is kind of odd, and there are times when people have been severely abused. They have different parts of their personality that will split off to accommodate the pain, and it usually comes from severe abuse. Years ago, I treated a woman that had many personalities, and she did massive amounts of work here. After she left and was gone for a couple of years, she continued her work. She's written a book. But anyway, she came back to see me, and she brought me this basket of dolls. And this is just a little sampling. I don't know if you can see this, but it's a sampling of all of her little inner children. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She had more than that, but that is what came in this basket. And what she wanted me to do, she brought me this basket of little dolls, and she asked me to be the grandmother of her little inner child. So have fun with the inner child. And anyway, I just wanted to show you that. And so let's open it up. Any of you done any inner child work? Are you in the process of doing it? I see Sarah shaking her head. Sarah, tell us about inner child work.
Yeah. So I came to Shades like 3 years ago, and I had some pretty severe abuse and a few alters. I'm a sex slave survivor, and I was not in touch with my inner child at all on any level. It was really hard. I was really stoic, like just a stone wall. But eventually I was able to cry at Shades and did some inner child work, and I do it every day today. And I have a sponsee with me, and John's here, and all my sponsees do inner child work. And it's really beautiful stuff. It's amazing that I can go from being this I have multiple black belts, and I love fighting, and I love aggression, and I just really love hurting people sometimes. But it's really amazing that today I can love children and play with children on the level that I can and be as recovered as I am.
Thanks, Sarah. I know you would have good stuff to share. What about John over there? John?
You can just move the camera probably. Hey, Tennie. I wanted to say real quick on the affirmations. I was
actually decided to take you up on that offer of 5 times a day, 50 affirmations. And at first, even getting 20 affirmations down on the page was so hard. But by the time I left Shades, I had over 200 different individual affirmations. Recently, we were all actually having a conversation, and it occurred to me, I've been telling myself affirmations every day since I was born. And I did probably about 50 of them or more a day, multiple times a day. But those affirmations are, you're a piece of crap. You're not worth anything. You're terrible. You're not worth anything. Why would you even try? Those were my affirmations. But when I changed those to positive affirmations of, I can do this. I can try. I can do the best I can. I'm a good person. I'm, worthy of love and grace. When I changed it to those kind of affirmations, I can single-handedly say that's probably one of the best things Shades did for me. I still think that's one of the most healing things I'm requiring at every single sponsee.
Good for you, John. Thank you for sharing that. And I had that on my list about the negative self-talk. Adult children of alcoholics or any addict. I mean, boy, we can do that negative self-talk. So thanks for bringing that up. And
Tennie, I'm going to add one more thing to mine regarding the inner child work I was talking about. So I had 3 alters when I came into Shades due to like the really, really bad abuse that you were talking about, 3 alter personalities. Not a single one of them have come out one day since Shades.
Oh, that is wonderful there. And you've done the work. You've done the work. And that's what we tell people. You do the work and it's gonna, your whole life's gonna change. Thank you, Sarah. Rebecca, and John, thank you, John. Rebecca, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I did this child work when I was in clinic for 3 weeks, but very different information that I got today to what was told to us in clinic, which was really nice because I heard a completely different side. I went through a stage of going on a lot of retreats, and I used to say to the psychologist that was giving them, I have to be an adult to myself, because all I would do on these retreats is cry and cry and cry, and I wouldn't stop. Like, it would be hysterical. So like, I think there's definitely still work to be done, but it's a really, I find it a really hard topic because of my schooling that I had. But I like the idea of doing the letter with a non-dominant hand. We did it in clinic, but we did it with a dominant hand. So I'm keen to try and go and do it to the non-dominant hand now.
Good.
And then also, when you said you don't know when to stop, people with that sort of thing, I'm like that completely, 110%, all or nothing.
Yeah. So on the sobbing and the crying, there is a reservoir of hurt and pain and tears inside that side of us with that, if there's been any kind of abuse. And I believe that child part is holding the pain. So what I say to people, cry your tears, cry it and cry it out, and one day you'll be done with it. You will be done, but don't disown that part of yourself. Have the pain, and then recovery is, yeah, you're right. We have to grow ourselves up and become our own parents. We do have to, become the adult, and know the difference of when, we're letting the kid drive the bus or when the adult's on board, So thanks for sharing, Rebecca, and keep letting us know how the work's going. Yeah. Who's next?
Yeah, no, it was a lovely talk, Tennie, as usual.
Thank you. Wanda? Oh, there's Anna's little doll. Wanda?
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to say, this really brings up a lot of memories for me about 30 years ago when I came into treatment. And, I came to treatment after about, 5 years of abstinence in OA. And of course, with OA 12 steps, we don't really work on the inner child. So that was like, a big thing for me to see and do. And when I was in treatment, and I guess the first day I walked in there and saw that picture that you have of the roles in the family, my family, your family, and we all have a role in our family of origin. And of course, y'all quickly identified me as the lost child, and that to me was that was so mind-boggling to me that I had lived my life that way, not only as a child, but as an adult as well. And so we worked on a lot of these different processes that you've talked about, and I still get to do some of them today. But it's amazing to me that we get in touch, or I got in touch with myself, the precious part of me, and not the part that wanted to sit back and hide and go read in my room or go do something alone. Although I still do enjoy solitude and doing things alone, but it's totally different when we do it with when I do it with that knowledge that I am this person that's still a part of me all these years later, that wants to just feel the feelings of being innocent and sweet and kind, and thinking about all that is just, this is really bringing up a lot of the thoughts that I experienced like 30 years ago. So thank you.
Well, and thank you, Wanda, and happy birthday. And today your recovery birthday.
Yes,
happy
thank
birthday,
you.
35 years. Woo!
Yes, I still remember when you came back from treatment and took abstinence to a different level for most of us, because it was like life or death. All of a sudden, abstinence became the most important thing in my life. So thank you, Tennie.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for all that you've done for the program here in Abilene and all over the world, really, all over the world. You've carried the message everywhere. Thanks, Wanda. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
All righty. Anyone else?
I was going to share Tennie, if you don't mind.
Look at your little girl.
I know, she's so sweet. I love her. Well, I was able to do my inner child work, make my inner child last week before I got here, before I came home. And then 2 weeks prior, I had done my inner child work with your help and Kim's help and Jessica's. But oh my goodness, I have not taken care of my inner child, I don't think ever. I now taking care of my inner child and taking care of my outer child. I don't know that I've ever been this selfish in my whole life. I've made 6 meetings in 2.5 days, and I am working hard, journaling, and trying to make as many meetings as possible. And just to let and thank you for sharing little Chris and little Leah. I was able to be a part of their inner child. In fact, I got to hold Chris for a while. So thank you for that. Anyways, I'm very grateful for Shades and to be home as well. And just to let you know is that I will be retiring December 31st. I got in just in time to get all that paperwork done. Praise God.
Good for you. Well, I hope you'll come to see us on Thursday nights and continue on the Zoom and keep in touch. We want to know how you're doing. Thanks, Anna.
Sure, I'll see you tomorrow.
All righty. Good to see you. Great. All righty. Who's next? Is our time's about up, isn't it? All right.
Yes, ma'am, it is. So tune in next week unless somebody else has something to share.
Okay, so next week we're going to, the holidays are coming up, and we're going to be talking next week about going home without going crazy. Think about that.
I think Val had something she wanted to share real quick.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
it's always wonderful to be on these calls. For me, it was it was just full of information this morning of stuff that I've known, heard, worked through. And oh, there were so many things that I related to with, the inner child, the outer child, the wounded child. And something that's just, it's sitting with me here because I've, done all this work in some form or another. But that affirmations or that self-talk that for myself is so, just on me steady. And so it was going on like, oh, you're still so broken. You still need to work on that. And I've noticed that in my, many years now is it kind of, I see it like coming around again. Mm-hmm. Something that I've worked on, and then it's, then I'll go to something else, and then I'll come back to it. And then I think, oh, I still haven't taken care of that. But I always have to, just be aware of it and change it.
Yeah.
To being, every time that I've come up against something again, is, that negative part will come in, like you didn't this, you didn't that, versus, you have looked at all this, you have addressed it, and you're doing just fine.
Good.
Because as you're reading the adult children of alcoholics, all that stuff really stood out again for me today. And I looked up, who is this? Black?
Claudia Black.
Yeah.
She's a pioneer in the adult children of alcoholics.
Yeah. And, I think, what's wrong with being broken, but really, this is all natural. All of this that I deal with is natural from how I was raised. Yeah. And not
if you haven't done a lot of that work for adult children of alcoholics, I'd really recommend you get her book. She's written several, but that's the first one. And Claudia was and is a social worker, and really just kind of started in the addiction field by chance. And the title of that book, It'll Never Happen to Me, is that she wasn't going to ever be an adult child of an alcoholic. But once she got to looking, and her book reflects this, her dad was a severe alcoholic. See, denial is don't even know I'm lying. We don't even know that we're lying about something. And so her first book really talks a lot about her own denial of growing up in an alcoholic home and the missings. There's a lot of missings with us that have grown up in alcoholic homes and other dysfunction. It's not just alcoholism. So, well, thanks. And just each one of you just keep taking care of yourselves. And next week, we're going to be talking about, and I don't know how many, who are all going to be able to go home for the holidays on account of the pandemic. But anyway, we're going to be talking about going home without going crazy. So we will see you next week on Zoom and hear you on Tuesday, hopefully on the alumni meeting. There was a great meeting last night. There's a lot of people on the call. Cora shared, and so if you haven't been on that meeting, would encourage you at 7:00 on Tuesday nights. And the format is Jackie from Kentucky is the alumni chair. She gets a speaker. They speak like the first 35 minutes, and it's opened up to the group for share. And it's a great meeting. So I hope to hear all of you on there, and then we'll see you next week. Have a great week.
See ya.
Thanks, guys. See you guys.
Thank you.